Hello, my name is Albelis Reyes, and today we will explore a complex and thought-provoking topic, and this is the positive and negative impact of English-speaking countries on Venezuela. In this case, we focus on history, education, and religious influence, just as environmental issues. This comparison is not only cultural but also political and social. Understanding these influences can help us make a critical comparison about Venezuela's current situation. This is lead to the global powers and the dual effects of external cultural exchanges. First of all, we need to start with the historical relationship between Venezuela and English-speaking countries, especially the United States. This one has been deeply influential but also controversial. During the 20th century, the USA played a key role in Venezuela's economy, especially in the oil industry, where American companies such as ExxonMobil and Chevron held enormous power, investing heavily but also extracting resources with limited long-term benefit to local communities. In this case, we have the positive impact, which include the introduction of modern industrial techniques, trade opportunities, and global visibility. But the USA was Venezuela's main oil buyer for decades, helping the country grow quickly during the oil boom of the 20th century. In other hand, we have the negative impacts, where, however, this includes economic dependency, political pressure, and interference, where the USA has supported or opposed different Venezuelan governments depending on their alignment with American interests, contributing to internal tensions. In this case, we also have the UK influence that has been less direct, although historical colonial legacies and diplomatic ties, such as the Guyana-Essequibo dispute, which still lingers. Okay, moving to education, Venezuela's educational system has been inspired in part by foreign models, especially from Europe and North America. These positive influences came from English-speaking countries, including the promotion of English language learning, which opened doors to international opportunities, higher education, and professional growth. We also have the access to academic literature and digital platforms from institutions like Harvard, Oxford, and MIT. And in other point, we have the participation in international scholarships and exchange programs, which is really a benefit for us like a country. However, there are some negative aspects too. One is the over-dependence of external validation. For example, many Venezuelans consider that international degrees are superior to the local ones, which can disagree or can lower the confidence in our national institutions. Another issue is the digital division. While English-speaking countries push forward with advanced educational technologies, Venezuelan students often have to face some struggles like power problems, limited internet access, or lack of resources. And this creates a cultural and technological gap between those countries. Now let's address what is the religious and cultural values. In this case, Venezuela is predominantly Catholic country, shaped by Spanish colonialism. However, the Protestants' denomination, particularly as evangelical Pentecostal movements, have grown significantly, many of which are directly influenced or funded by American religious organizations. This also has led to some positive effects, and in this case, we have that this influence includes the diversification of spiritual belief, the creation of a new community, and the support of networks that are already established, and greater emphasis on charity, music, and local leadership. However, there are some criticisms too. Some of these imported beliefs have clashed with traditional values or been used for political purpose. In some cases, foreign religious doctrines promote rigid worldwide views, which might challenge gender equality, sexual diversity, or indigenous cultural belief. In this case, the express of prosperity theology often is associated with the United States-based church, which has also raised some ethical questions in a country with these high poverty levels. Finally, we must consider environmental issues, where English-speaking countries, particularly the United States, Canada, and Australia, have historically been among the world's largest polluters due to the industrialization and fossil fuel consumption. In this case, Venezuela, as an oil exporting country, has both followed and served this model. In this case, the positive contributions include environmental research, renewable energy innovation, and global climate initiatives promoted by English-speaking institutions and NGOs. Some educational programs and environmental documentaries like those from National Geographic or BBC have raised awareness in Venezuela, but the negative impact is substantial because Venezuela's role as a supplier to major pollution nation has worsened the deforestation of oil spills and water contamination, particularly speaking of the Orinoco River. Moreover, multinational companies, many of which come from English-speaking countries, have contributed to environmental degradation with limited accountability, which actually do not help Venezuela's situation. Meanwhile, these countries speaks about climate leadership. Many shifts the environmental burden to some developing nations like ours, demanding low emissions while continuing with the high levels of consumption on themselves. Finally, in conclusion, the influence of English-speaking countries on Venezuela is both profound and paradoxical, because in one hand we have been benefited from educational exchange, access to science, technology, language acquisitions, and even cultural diversity, and we have adopted some tools and systems that connect us with the entire world. But on the other hand, we also have suffered from exploitation, cultural dependency, and environmental harm, and even social-political pressures that have shaped and sometimes limited us to our national development. The key is to adopt what is useful and transformative without losing our identity, and we must learn from other global models, but we must adapt them to our custom, to our context, respecting our people, our land, and our own culture. So, only through critical awareness, balanced cooperation, and cultural self respect, Venezuela can walk toward a future that is both connected and independent. Thanks for listening.